Hey everybody. Today we are going to be talking about and reviewing the film Pearl by director Ty West, starring Mia Goth. In anticipation for Maxine, which is out in theaters now, I wanted to watch X and Pearl, and so I did so. Subsequently, started with X, went back to Pearl, in anticipation of this film, uh, and I gotta say, I think Pearl is a better film than X. From what I understand and from what I've read and heard, is that after they filmed X, that they still had time on their shooting schedule, and essentially Ty West was saying, "Hey, let's make another movie." And I gotta say, it's one of my favorite. I won't say that this one is a horror film. This is more of a character study, and it ties into the original film X. Um, and spoiler alert for X, I'll just say that right now. The killer of that film, this is her origin story, and it delves into essentially the earlier parts of her life. Pearl from X is the old woman who is the killer in that film. Um, and it goes back into her original origin story, uh, going back to I think 1918. So the original film was 1979, so you're talking 60 years before that. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think Mia Goth blows it away in this film. Um, her portrayal of this character is freaking amazing. I mean, I don't know what else to say beyond that. I was really surprised how much I liked both of these films when watching them back to back. And I think it's important to watch X first, um, because although this film doesn't really give away any spoilers for that one, um, it's more the it's the contrast between those two films that you can tell immediately when you go and watch X and then you watch Pearl. The color grading of the two films is night and day difference. Um, I want to say Pearl or X reminded me a lot of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with an elderly couple as the killers, but this one goes back into you know World War I era. um they're kind of dealing in the time. I think the Spanish flu is the current pandemic that's happening in the United States in this film, and I think that this was filmed during the pandemic of 2020, the COVID pandemic, and it's really interesting to see the way that they use masks as a way of one dealing with the COVID pandemic, but then also highlighting the pandemic that was happening in the early or yeah the late 19 teens. And yeah, I mean, this was a very interesting film to watch. I was really surprised uh, how much I liked it. And I'll just do a brief like plot synopsis. Pearl is living with her mother and father on this farm, and it's the same farm from X. Um, and immediately, like going back to the color grading, I mean everything. The sky is so blue, the grass is so green, and seeing the degradation of that property in X, it immediately like jumped out as being extremely creative, using the same landscape, using the same set, the same area, because obviously I had just gotten out of that first experience, but then coming back to it and seeing it in its prime, it really it emphasized just the difference in time periods in America. Um, And so, plot synopsis: Pearl is living with her parents because her husband is away at war, World War I, and she's waiting for him to come home. She's awaiting either a letter that he's been killed or that he's gonna show back up. Spoiler alert, knowing the film X, obviously he survives through World War I, So I knew that at some point he must come back. It's not like he's gonna die halfway through the film. And she gets that letter. And so her father is essentially invalid due to the fact that I think he contracted Spanish flu. Um, and so he's disabled. He cannot get around. And her mother is the one who is the head of the household, trying to maintain things through, this time period in America and living on a farm, and maintaining animals and maintaining the infrastructure of the property. I mean, that is no small feat, and life was a lot more difficult back then. Um, I think that even the mothers suggest that they're pretty they're well off enough that they still have running water. They still have, their life is still continuing. Um, so Pearl is, she wants to be a star. She is a young woman who wants to be a dancer, and so she has this dream of joining a local uh, dance routine, and that's one of the inciting incidents of this film is that she wants to get out and she wants to live her life, and she does not want to be on the farm her entire life. To have to take care of her parents and to continue the life that she was born into, and that her husband, later on in the film, she talks about how she was hoping he would get her out of that, and the fact that he's gone due to World War I, she's stuck there maintaining, a lot of the chores and a lot of the responsibilities of the farm to help her mother. And so I think she is a German Catholic, and yeah, like what do I say about this? The character development, knowing where her character ends up in X, um, it's almost a tragedy in a sense that she's a young woman who wants more than what she's currently in. She wants a different lifestyle, and it ties into Maxine's character, who kind of has the same idea of she wants to be a dancer, she wants to be a movie star, and Pearl, who she interacts with in the original film, um, Pearl's character in X kind of states that there's something different about Maxine, that she's a yeah, that she has a different quality about her. And um, the progression of this film, Pearl starts off as what seemingly appears to be a somewhat normal young woman on this farm. There's an early scene. I want to say it's the opening, even before the credits roll, the opening credits roll. She kills a goose that finds its way into the farmhouse, and the juxtaposition of most of these slasher films, it's always a male who is the bad guy, who is the killer, who is the one who kind of leads the horror aspect of it. And Pearl kills this duck and then feeds it to the alligator, uh, or crocodile. I'm assuming it's an alligator because it's Texas. Feeds it to this alligator, who that alligator shows up in X in the original film. So there's a lot of tiebacks to the original film while being a prequel. Um, but essentially, Pearl, she has to run errands going into town, for her mother, for her father to get his medicine, and she meets this projectionist who uh, sort of gives her a glimpse of the life that exists beyond the farm. He's a bohemian, so he's lived over in Europe and he's traveled, and he's sort of in a holding pattern where he's working at this theater, but um, sort of suggests the life that can exist for her outside of where she's currently at. And so she has these dreams of getting away, and he sort of he builds that dream for her a bit and builds upon it. And as her frustration with her life as she knows it grows, she takes greater and greater steps to ensure that that will happen. And so I'll just go into spoilers because it's hard to talk about the film without doing that. Um, you know, she there's a scene where she's taking her father, and her father is in a wheelchair and completely invalid. Um, and she has to feed him medicine. She has to take care of him and give him baths. And you can feel for that character because that's a hard life. That's a difficult thing for anybody to go through. Um, and especially in that time period, there weren't a lot of escapes. There weren't a lot of ways to get away from it. You didn't have phones, you didn't have television, you didn't have any means of escaping into some other reality. And so she was constantly faced with this. And with her father being in that state, um, she sort of suggests that she wants to essentially kill her parents. She wants to get rid of them so that they're no longer holding her back and that she can be free to do what she wants. Um, and she does go, the escape that she has is she loves going to the movies. And she does so. She in one of her trips into town to get her father medicine, she goes and watches uh I can't remember the name of the film that she's watching, but it's essentially a dance movie, and she dreams of being one of the actresses, one of the stars in that kind of film. And the projectionist shows up, gives her a cigarette. She's standing in the alley after the film, and it's that initial interaction that leads on to the subsequent events. Um, Mia Goth is great in this character. Like I was really blown away by her performance. Um, she steadily goes down a very, very dark path. Um, and like I said, like the early suggestion that she might be a killer or a psychopath with the goose at the beginning of the film, that's what they say is that serial killers often start with young animals, and the mother suggests this to her that she's seen what she does, even in the shadows. So, you know, she wants to get away from that. She wants to escape from who she is and what her life is. And this projectionist suggests that to her. Um, it leads into a lot of events that I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I was not expecting the way that it would go. Um, Obviously where she ends up in X, you can logically come to that obviously something must have happened in her past. She must have done something that created the person she became. Um, and so yeah, like going back to the plot, not to get all over the place. You know, she wants to try out for a local church group that has a dance routine. I guess there's like a statewide dance troupe that she wants to join, and her sister-in-law, who is sort of the perfect blonde, all-American, rich family who gets everything they want. Um, she has envy for that, and early on it seems like they got along, but um, there's a deeper, darker side of Pearl that comes out because she tries out for this part and doesn't get it because they're looking for somebody who is exactly what her sister-in-law is. Um, and it's not clear whether or not her sister-in-law actually gets the part. She says she doesn't get it, but they don't actually answer that question. There's an amazing monologue scene later on in the film after the tryouts, um, and at this point, Pearl is already a killer. Uh, she murders. She murders the projectionist because he sleeps with her. He comes, they sleep with each other. She goes to his to the theater where he lives, sleeps with him, brings him back, and at that point, she'd gotten into a fight with her mother, and her mother's dress catches on fire. I wouldn't say she murders her mother, but she's not unhappy that her mother has been deformed and nearly killed, and she throws her in the basement, which again ties back to the original film X of the of the husband throwing the Jenna Ortega character into the basement. Um, and then, it's suggested that she wants to feed her father to the alligator. Um, this is a woman who is really gone down a dark psychological path, and Mia Goth plays it perfectly. Because you feel for her, you can understand why she has gotten to this point where she's this unhappy with her life and willing to do anything to get out of it. Um, the projectionist character, he sees that something clearly is wrong. He reads it after he comes back to the house, and he knows that she's lying um, about the circumstances that they're in. She proceeds to kill him, and then she goes and continues to do her dance routine, and then her sister-in-law brings her back to the house, and again she has this monologue, which is uh, masterfully acted. I want to say it's somewhere in the realm of 4 to 5 minutes. Um, the sister asks her, what would you say to your husband when he came home about the things that you're going through? And sort of spills the beans. And her sister-in-law is freaked out, like clearly, um, after hearing it, and understandably so. And so, it all leads into the character of Pearl in X. And I mean, hats off to Mia Goth and Ty West. This was, I think I liked it better than X. The two films go together, so it's hard to distinguish between the two of them. Um, but this was one of my favorite horror films. I wouldn't say it's a horror film because it's not particularly scary. Um, I think the idea of it is a little bit haunting, but um, the contrast of the beautiful landscape, the blue skies, the green grass, like even the dresses and the technicolor of the film, it hit me. Like I definitely thought about this film a lot after I'd watched it, and it got me very excited to go see Maxine, which I saw today. I'll do that in a separate review, but um, yeah, I highly recommend watching X and Pearl in that order. Watch Pearl second because it shines a light on the character from the original film, and you can see why she got to be the person that she was. Um, yeah, I mean, I'd say I hate giving ratings to films like out of 10, but I mean, if you were to compare this to other slashers or different types of film in this genre, I'd say I'd give it an 8, 8 out of 10. I liked it a lot. Um, was really surprised by it. I didn't think I'd like these films as much as I did. Um, but they nail it. They really get the characters right. They really the writing is good. Um, so yeah, I mean that's my discussion and film talk for today about Pearl, and previously I did the X one. Um, yeah, I recommend it. Watch the film. Let me know what you think. Leave some comments. I'd love to have a discussion about it because yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it, and yeah, go watch Pearl. Thanks, guys.